Welcome back to another reading and correcting with me, Kindar, the Tiger Writes, and Ty, the Tiger Supervisor. These are where I read a chapter from one of my novels and correct it as I go. If you want to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. And if you're looking to support me, that is on my Patreon. Today we are doing chapter 19 of A Series of Death. Trembor breathed in the clean air and smiled. He hadn't realized how stuffy his house had gotten. He'd been so focused on remaining busy, working to close each case, even this last week, tracking down leads on the coyote's killer had kept him going to the point that, this morning, he'd gotten up to realize he had nothing clean to wear. He had considered grabbing the least dirty set of clothing. Every enforcer in the precinct had done at least one multi-day stakeout where a change of clothing hadn't been considered. But while he wasn't as finicky as Bo when it came to his appearance, he did have some pride. And the memory of the alleys with the homeless wasn't so old as to not make him shudder still. With his clothing in the wash, he checked his pad for any messages from Heralex. He'd given him the task of keeping an eye on his father and informing Trembor when he did something too out of character. For the last week, Bo had behaved, going to work, returning home, spending time with a female or on 3 evenings, different females. This morning was the usual nothing to mention message. Walking around the house, waiting for his clothes to be clean and picking up things he'd left lying around, he noticed the dust on top of his family's picture frames. Cleaning that had led to vacuuming the carpet and discovering just how much fur was embedded in it. Once he noticed some of it was black, he vacuumed the entire house. By the time he was done, he'd taken his clothing out of the wash, replaced that with bed sheets and towels, and noticed the air was stuffier than it should be. So he called a local technician to look at his air filtering system. Over. By lunchtime, Trembor accepted he wouldn't be going into work. So, after the technician berated him for going so long without changing the filters and the damage that could do to the whole system, he did more housework. He ran a cleanup app on his computer, not one Marlot had installed. That one he'd removed as soon as he'd gotten home, but he had found another one on the net with good ratings. The wolf had always been on him to run such app regularly, but Trember never saw the point. His computer always worked fine. Now he decided it was just another way the wolf tried to assert subtle control over Trember's life. He ordered He ordered his office, throwing out notes so old he didn't remember what they had been about. Filing case-related files he'd left lying around recently, annoyed at another display of how walking away from his would-be abuser had unsettled him more than it should have. You shouldn't be missing Marlot. Don't let this happen again, the technician warned, putting her tool away as he breathed out. You're lucky nothing burned out. Wait, what? Okay, if I've got this here, I don't need it or up here. Like, where is? So, configuration. Okay, like this is literally one out of place because I have it happen here. And there's literally no, like, I go from here to that, like that. I mean, that's fine, but this established that as happening earlier. So I can remove, I can remove that. I can remove that entirely. Um, Don't let this happen again, the technician warned, putting her tools away as he breathed as he breathed out. You're lucky nothing burnt out. You need to change the filter every 2 to 3 months. Every 2 or 3 months. She looked him over. With your main, I'd aim for 2 months to be safe. Long strings clog things faster. He took out his pad to pay and noticed it was out of charge. He growling to himself, he plugged it in long enough to finish the transaction and escorted out. A hyena walked up to the a hyena transaction and escorted her out. A hyena walked up the walkway as the technician left. What are you doing out of a uniform, Derrimac? He asked. Day's over? She raised her hand. In one, she held a pack of cans, in the other, a parcel wrapped in butcher paper. I brought drinks and snacks. Will you let me in? He considered her. It wasn't like he'd plan anything now that the cleaning was done. Maybe call up an episode of the Survivor Experiment. He needed to catch up before the next family dinner if he wanted to keep up with Sarek. So that's a bribe, he said, moving out of the way and motioning her inside. It explains how you planned on getting in, but not why you felt the need to come. She sniffed the air. You didn't show up at the precinct, and we were concerned something had happened. She handed him the wrapped package as they headed to the kitchen. For some strange reason, the others figured I had a better odds of surviving if it turned out you were in a bad mood. Cleaning day? He took a plate out and placed the package on it. Opening it revealed dried meat. It's what happens when you wake up one morning and realize you're out of clean clothes. He put that on the table with 2 glasses. She handed him a can, ear tilted. The last time I remember you were wearing dirty clothes was the Rogretto stakeout. You exploded when you found out the laundry was broken in the complex they set us up in. We were only supposed to be there for 2 days, Trembor grumbled. If they told us it was going to be longer, I'd have brought more clothes. No one should be forced to stretch 2 sets over 5 days. The least they could have done was send someone to fix the washer. You know I'd have covered for you while you went home for extra clothing. That was against the rules, Trembor grumbled darkly, and Derrimac laughed. He clawed the can open and poured the content in his glass while the hyena drank out of the can. He tilted an ear at her as he only tasted a hint of alcohol. I'm not looking to get you bawling on my shoulder, she answered with a roll of the eyes. No, just loosen my tongue a little, right? She shrugged. It's the first time you haven't shown up since you came back from that trip to the wolf's home. You've been up in your office on your rest days. You know what they taught us about broken pattern back at the academy. He sighed. When a suspect breaks their routine, be ready for things to become very interesting. Took another swallow. This was the better quality stuff. Not as much of an artificial taste to the blood. As you see, it wasn't all that exciting. And if you wanted to talk, I would. No alcohol required. I know. While you aren't on the front line anymore, keeping things at the bottom of your den isn't good for anyone. She raised a hand to stop his protest. I'm dropping it. I verified you weren't about to throw yourself off the tallest building around, so the others will be happy. Her swallow was long. You keeping the office? The renewal is in 3 days. The captain's going to have to let the accounting department know, and they aren't going to let you stay there for free. Already? Trevor rubbed his temple. He'd been sure he still had time. He'd returned only days after the rent cycle began, so Captain Gold had told him not to worry about it. He suspected it was the tiger's way. He suspected it was the tiger's weight of nudging Trembor into staying there while his old enforcer family could keep an eye on him, make sure he didn't do anything detrimental while he dealt with his heartache. I'll see what's available, he said. See how rates compare. She chewed on a piece of dried meat. I'm pretty sure someone in the department can talk accounting into giving you a lower rate than any other place, you being an RI and all that. Trevor narrowed his eyes at her as he grabbed a piece of his own. Threatening the staff is against the law. I didn't say anything about threats, she answered innocently. One of us would simply have a nice, polite conversation with one of those weasels. Now you're either insulting weasels or my father, Trembor replied, chewing. If that is that the elk from the bust? He looked at the dried meat. How is there any of it left? She snorted. He was a big bastard, and there's only so long we can stand eating the same thing. Ugbear did his drying magic 2 days after we brought the body in, and he's been leaving the strips lying around, hoping we'd finish them. So that's why you brought them in. That's why you're here, he grinned. You volunteered me to clean out what's left of the meat. She shrugged innocently. How are you eating? He frowned. Quite well, thank you. Her surprise surprised him. I do go out and hunt. I have a warthog in my cooler from my last hunt, maybe 2 weeks ago. She studied him. What's been distracting you? This last week you've let things slide in a way the Trembor I know wouldn't. He straightened. What had he missed? Cases or precinct things? Not that he really involved himself in that anymore. If it had been something important, someone would have pointed it out. I swear, Trem, if you tell me it's that wolf again, I'm heading out and bringing you back his body. It's not him. Trembor snapped, then swallowed the mounting anger. Why did the wolf still get to him like that? It's family stuff. She nodded knowingly. Family can be a bitch. She raised their clan, especially big ones. Dirimac also had a large family. Trembor had met a lot of them while being her partner. There had been a lot of barking, biting, and snarking during those meetings. Hyena families were strange, as far as Trembor was concerned. You're not bringing me that body either, he warned as she got that look that said she was getting an idea. Immediately, her expression turned innocent. I wouldn't dream of it. Getting in the middle of some other family's problem is the fastest way to lose limbs. As was getting involved with criminals, Trembor wished Bo would talk to him. How is your family doing? He asked to change the subject, and Dirimac almost choked on her drink. She recounted the latest. One of her brothers was on the outs with their mother, not the same one as last time. Gerthen, this was Koldak. Trembor nodded as if he knew who she meant. Then she talked about which of the fathers was trying to ingratiate himself back into her mother's good grace. There was none of the love between parents in Derimac's family that he saw between his. Her mother had picked the males to mate with by some criteria that made sense to her and her alone. No contract. Then, as the children grew up, female stuck close to each other while the males were slowly ostracized. Her family made for great entertainment and distractions. But hyena families were weird. And that concludes chapter 19 of A Series of Death. If you are enjoying this, please leave a like. If you want to know when the next chapter is going to be up, subscribe and hit a bell. If you want to read this book as well as the other in the series, they are available at all major e-retailer. If you want to support me in a different way, that's on my Patreon, where you can also get access to just about everything I've written. And if you're looking to listen to these live, it's every Tuesday morning, 8 a.m. Eastern Time on Twitch. The links are in the notes. And with that, I shall wish you a good day.